The Dominion Council had worked for 30 years on their greatest project. They wanted to create the perfect weapon, not a machine, not a bomb, something alive, something that could think and hunt and kill without mercy. They called them. The scientists took genetic material from the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. They mixed it with human DNA stolen from dead soldiers on forgotten battlefields. They grew the cubs in tanks filled with green liquid. They shocked them when they showed weakness. They starved them when they failed tests. They taught them that pain was the only truth in the universe. The result was terrifying. The cubs grew to 8 feet tall by their 7th year. Their skin was thick like armor. Their claws could cut through metal. Their teeth were made for tearing flesh. And their minds were sharp enough to understand complex battle plans. 12 cubs survived the final selection process. The rest had died during training or been terminated for showing defects like hesitation or curiosity. Now came the last phase. The cubs needed to learn human scent patterns. They needed to understand how humans moved and talked and thought. This way, they could hunt humans better when the war began. The Dominion needed a human handler. They chose Hana. She was 34 years old. Before the war reached her colony, she had been a kindergarten teacher and knew she loved her job. She loved watching children learn to read their first words. She loved teaching them songs and games. She loved the way they laughed when something surprised them. Then the Dominion came. The attack lasted 6 hours. Hana survived by hiding in a basement with 11 of her students. She kept them quiet by telling stories. She kept them calm by singing softly. When the soldiers found them, the children were taken to one facility. Hana was taken to another. She spent 2 years in a labor camp on a moon with no name. The work was brutal. The food was barely enough to survive. Many prisoners died. Hana lived because she refused to give up. Every night, she would close her eyes and remember her students. She would wonder if they were still alive somewhere. She would promise herself that she would find them someday. Then the offer came. A Dominion official visited the camp. He was tall and thin with gray skin and too many eyes. He told Hana that she had been selected for a special program. She would work with the cubs. She would help them understand humans. The job was dangerous. Most handlers did not survive the first week. But if she refused, she would die in the mines anyway. Hana agreed. They transported her across 3 star systems to a frozen moon called 4. The facility was built into a mountain of black ice. Everything was cold and gray and lifeless. Armed guards watched her every movement. Cameras tracked her through every corridor. On her first day, they gave her a simple uniform and a communication device. They explained the rules. She was not to show fear. She was not to make sudden movements. She was not to attempt any form of bonding with the subjects. The cubs were weapons, not children. She must remember this at all times. Overseer Prill was in charge of the facility. He was a species known for their cruelty and scientific minds. His body was thin like a stick insect. His voice was cold like metal scraping against metal. "You will enter the containment chamber," he told Hana. "You will allow the cubs to learn your scent. If they attack, we will attempt retrieval of your body for study purposes. Do you understand?" Hana understood. The containment chamber was enormous. The walls were thick metal reinforced with energy shields. The floor was covered with scratches and old stains that Hana tried not to think about. The lighting was harsh and white. She walked through the heavy doors. They sealed behind her with a sound like a tomb closing. For a moment she saw nothing. The chamber seemed empty. Then she heard breathing, many lungs taking air in and pushing it out. The sound came from the far corner, hidden in shadows. Hana's heart beat fast. Her hands trembled. Every instinct told her to run, to scream, to pound on the doors and beg to be let out. But she had survived 2 years in a labor camp. She had kept 11 children calm during an invasion. She was not going to let fear win now. She walked forward slowly. Her footsteps echoed in the vast space. The shadows moved. Hana stopped walking. 12 shapes emerged from the darkness. They were huge, much bigger than she had expected. Their bodies were covered in dark scales that shifted color slightly as they moved. Their eyes glowed faintly in the harsh light. Their claws clicked against the metal floor. They were monsters. That was what the Dominion wanted her to see. But Hana had spent 10 years working with children. She knew how to look past the surface. She knew how to see what was really there. And what she saw now made her heart break. The cubs were huddled together. The bigger ones stood in front of the smaller ones. Their bodies were tense, not with aggression, but with fear. Their eyes watched her, not with hunger, but with terror. Some of them were shaking. They were afraid of her. No, they were afraid of everything. Hana understood. These creatures had known nothing but pain their whole lives. Every adult they had ever met had hurt them. Every experience had taught them that the universe was cruel. They expected her to be cruel too. She thought about her students back on New. She thought about how some of them came to school scared and hungry. She thought about how long it took to earn their trust. She thought about the small moments when they finally believed that she would not hurt them. Hana sat down on the cold metal floor. The cubs flinched. This was not expected behavior. Adults did not sit. Adults stood tall and threatening. Adults made themselves big. Hana made herself small. She reached into her pocket slowly. The cubs tensed, waiting for a weapon. Instead, she pulled out a photograph. It was old and worn. The edges were soft from being touched too many times. It showed a little girl with a bright smile and missing front teeth. "This is my niece," Hana said softly. "Her name is, she was 5 years old when I last saw her." The cubs did not understand the words, but they understood the tone. It was gentle, it was sad, it was not threatening. Hana began to sing. It was a lullaby her grandmother had sung to her when she was small. The words were about the moon and the stars and a child falling asleep safely in their mother's arms. The melody was simple and slow. In the observation room above, Overseer Prill watched with confusion. This was not protocol. The human was supposed to establish dominance. She was supposed to show strength. Instead, she was sitting on the floor making strange noises. He waited for the cubs to attack. They did not. The smallest cub separated from the group. He was only 6 feet tall, small for a. His scales were lighter than the others. His eyes were wider, more curious. He crept toward Hana slowly. His movements were cautious. He was ready to run at any moment. Hana kept singing. She did not look directly at the cub. She did not make any sudden movements. She just let her voice fill the cold chamber with something it had never contained before. Warmth. The small cub stopped 2 feet away from her. He tilted his head, listening. His body relaxed slightly. Hana finished the song. The silence that followed was different from before. It was not tense. It was waiting. "Hello," Hana whispered. "My name is Hana. I am not going to hurt you." The cub did not understand the words yet. But somehow Hana thought he understood the meaning. In her mind, she gave him a name. It meant stone in Korean, because even the hardest stone could be shaped by gentle water over time. This was how it began. 6 months passed on the frozen moon of 4. The facility stayed cold. The guards stayed watchful. The cameras kept recording every moment. But inside the containment chamber, everything had changed. Hana had thrown away all the rules. On her second day, she found the shock collars. Every cub wore one around their thick neck. When they did something wrong, the collar would send pain through their body. When they showed weakness, the collar would punish them. When they played or made sounds that were not aggression, the collar would hurt them. Hana spent 3 hours figuring out how to remove them. Her fingers bled from working with the unfamiliar technology. When she finally got Scholar off, he stared at his own neck like he could not believe it. Then he pressed his massive head against her shoulder and made a sound she had never heard before. It was soft, it was grateful, it was almost like crying. She removed all 12 collars that day. Overseer Prill was furious. He came to the chamber entrance and shouted through the communication system. He told her she was destroying months of conditioning. He told her the cubs would become uncontrollable. He told her she would be terminated. Hana looked at him through the thick glass. Behind her, 12 cubs stood in a line. They were not attacking. They were not showing aggression. They were watching her, waiting to see what she would do. "If you want to terminate me," Hana said calmly, "you will have to come in here and do it yourself." Prill did not come in. The next thing Hana changed was the feeding system. The cubs were fed on a strict schedule designed to keep them hungry. Hungry creatures were easier to control. Hungry creatures would do anything for food. The Dominion used this hunger to make the cubs perform violent acts. Hana started giving them extra food. She saved portions from her own meals. She learned which cubs liked which flavors. She discovered that loved sweet things, while the largest cub preferred meat that was barely cooked. The largest cub was female. The scientists had designated her as the alpha killer. Her genetic code had been modified to make her 40% more aggressive than her siblings. She was supposed to lead the others in battle. She was supposed to be the most dangerous. Hana named her Bora. It meant purple in Korean because of the faint purple tint in her dark scales. Bora did not trust Hana at first. She watched from a distance while the other cubs slowly gathered around their human handler. She growled when Hana came too close. She showed her teeth when Hana tried to offer food. Hana did not push, she simply waited. One night Hana woke up to find Bora standing over her sleeping mat. The cub's claws were extended. Her eyes glowed in the darkness. For one terrible moment, Hana thought this was the end. But Bora did not attack. She simply lay down next to Hana's mat. She curled her massive body around the small human like a protective wall. She stayed there until morning. From that night forward, Bora became Hana's shadow. Wherever Hana went, Bora followed. Whoever came too close to Hana, Bora watched with dangerous eyes. The other cubs learned quickly that Hana was under Bora's protection. Hana understood what had happened. Bora had been engineered to protect the pack. She had been designed to guard what was valuable. The Dominion wanted her to see enemies everywhere. Instead, Bora had decided that Hana was worth protecting. The game started in the 3rd month. Hana remembered all the activities she had used with her kindergarten students. She modified them for creatures with claws and tails and bodies that could crush metal. She taught them hide and seek, though the cubs had to learn not to actually disappear for hours at a time. She taught them catch, using balls made from compressed food containers. She taught them simple counting games with songs that helped them remember numbers. The cubs had never played before. The concept was completely foreign to them. At first, they did not understand why Hana wanted them to run and hide and seek each other. There was no reward. There was no punishment. There was no purpose they could see. But then found a hiding spot so good that his siblings could not find him for 20 minutes. When he finally revealed himself, he made a strange sound. His mouth opened wide. His body shook. The sound came from deep in his chest. Hana realized he was laughing. She had never taught them that. They had learned it on their own. Soon all the cubs were laughing. They laughed when someone found a good hiding spot. They laughed when someone tripped during a game. They laughed when tried to do a magic trick Hana had shown him and failed completely. Hana taught them rock, paper, scissors. The cubs modified it themselves, adding claw and tail as extra options. They played it constantly. They developed strategies. They argued about rules. They accused each other of cheating. They were being children. In the observation room, Prill watched with growing horror. He sent reports to the Dominion Council. The cubs were not becoming more aggressive. They were becoming less. They were not learning to kill. They were learning to play. They were not developing into weapons. They were developing into something the Dominion had never intended. The Council sent back concerned messages. They asked for combat readiness assessments. They wanted proof that their investment was paying off. The monthly combat assessment arrived in the 4th month. The Cubs were supposed to demonstrate their killing abilities. Holographic targets would appear in the chamber. The Cubs were supposed to destroy them with maximum efficiency. Their speed would be measured. Their aggression would be scored. Their value as weapons would be calculated. Hana had prepared them as best she could. She told them to do what the observers wanted. She told them it was important. She told them their lives might depend on it. The assessment began. The holographic targets appeared. They looked like human soldiers carrying weapons. The Cubs looked at the targets, then they looked at Hana, then they looked at each other. Walked up to the first target, he raised his claw. Then he performed the magic trick. It was terrible. His claws were too big for the small movements required. The invisible coin did not appear where it was supposed to appear. The trick made no sense. But the other Cubs collapsed with laughter anyway. One by one, each Cub did something other than attack. Bora did a clumsy dance Hana had taught them. Another Cub tried to sing the counting song, though his voice was rough and the words were wrong. Another Cub simply sat down and refused to participate. The holographic targets flickered and disappeared. The assessment ended with 0 kills recorded. In the observation room, Prill stood in silence. Behind him, representatives from the Dominion Council watched through a video connection. Their faces were not visible, but their voices were cold. "This batch is defective," one voice said. "Recommend termination and restart of program." "Agreed," said another voice. "Also recommend termination of human handler for sabotage." "Agreed," said a third voice. "Schedule execution for end of week. Harvest genetic material from Cubs for analysis. Dispose of human remains in standard fashion." The connection ended. Prill looked through the observation glass. In the chamber below, Hana was sitting with 12 Cubs gathered around her. She was teaching them a new song. Their voices were rough and terrible, but they were trying. They did not know they had 5 days to live. But Prill knew, and for reasons he did not fully understand, he decided not to tell them. Let them have their songs and games for a few more days. It would not change the outcome, but perhaps it was a small kindness. He was wrong about that. It would change everything. Bora learned to read because she was bored. Hana had not planned to teach them. Reading was dangerous. Reading meant the Cubs could access information. Information meant power. The Dominion would never allow their weapons to have power. But Bora was curious. She watched Hana study the maintenance manuals that the guards left in the chamber during repairs. She watched how Hana's eyes moved across the pages. She noticed the patterns. She started to understand. One night, Bora pointed at a word in the manual and made a questioning sound. Hana hesitated. Teaching reading was against every rule. It could get them both killed. But how could she refuse? How could she tell a child who wanted to learn that learning was forbidden? Hana taught Bora to read. It took 2 months. Bora was a fast learner. Her engineered brain absorbed information quickly. Soon she was reading everything she could find: maintenance reports, guard schedules, communication logs that the staff carelessly left within view. 3 days before the scheduled termination, Bora found the order. It was displayed on a data pad that a technician had left near the observation window. The words were simple and clear: terminate all specimens, execute human handler, harvest genetic material, begin new program. Bora read the order 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she waited until the facility's night cycle. She waited until Hana was sleeping. She waited until she was certain. Then she woke Hana by pressing her massive head against the human's shoulder. Hana opened her eyes. In the dim light she saw Bora's face. The cub's eyes were different. There was something there that Hana had never seen before: understanding, fear, determination. Bora pushed a data pad into Hana's hands. She pointed at the screen with one careful claw. Then she spoke. The word came out rough and broken. Bora's throat was not designed for human speech. The sounds were difficult for her to make, but the word was clear enough. Run! Hana read the order. Her hands began to shake. Her heart beat so fast she thought it might break. All this time she had known the danger, but seeing it written so clearly made it real in a way it had not been before. They were going to kill her children. No, she would not let that happen. Hana stood up quickly. The other cubs woke at the movement. They gathered around her, sensing that something was wrong, pressed close to her leg. The others formed a protective circle. Hana looked at them. 12 faces watched her in the darkness. 12 children waited for her to tell them what to do. 12 lives depended on what she decided in the next few moments. She had been memorizing the facility layout for months. During her supervised exercise periods, she paid attention to every corridor. She noted every door. She counted every guard post. She did not know why she was doing it at the time. Maybe some part of her always knew this moment would come. "We are leaving," Hana whispered. "All of us together, but we have to be quiet. Remember quiet feet." The cubs nodded. Quiet feet was a game Hana had invented. The goal was to move without making any sound. The cubs were surprisingly good at it. Despite their massive size, they could move like shadows when they wanted to. "Good," Hana said. "Quiet feet now. Follow me, stay close. And whatever happens, do not kill anyone unless I say so." Bora made a questioning sound. The instinct to protect was strong in her. If someone threatened Hana, every part of her engineering told her to destroy the threat. "I mean it," Hana said firmly. "We are not killers, even when we are scared, especially when we are scared. Do you understand?" Bora hesitated, then she nodded. They moved through the facility like ghosts. Hana had not realized how well the cubs had learned. They flowed through corridors in perfect silence. Their dark scales blended into shadows. Their breathing was controlled and quiet. When guards appeared, the cubs pressed against walls and became invisible. The hardest part was the security checkpoint. 2 guards stood at the entrance to the hangar bay where the transport ships were kept. There was no way to pass without being seen. Hana gestured for the cubs to wait. She needed a distraction. Crept forward. He picked up a small piece of metal from the floor. He looked at Hana. Then he threw the metal down a side corridor. It clattered loudly against the wall. Both guards turned toward the sound. They moved to investigate, weapons raised. Hana and the cubs slipped past. The hangar was cold and vast. 3 transport ships sat in docking positions. Only one was fueled and ready for launch. Hana could tell because the status lights were green instead of red. They were almost to the ship when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. The facility had discovered they were missing. Guards would be coming from every direction. They had minutes at most. "Run," Hana shouted. "Into the ship now." The cubs ran. Their quiet feet became thundering feet. They reached the transport ship and poured through the open hatch. Hana counted them as they entered. 11. Where was? She turned and saw him. Was at the far end of the hangar. A soldier had cornered him. The soldier's weapon was raised. Energy crackled along the barrel. In 3 seconds would be dead. Bora moved faster than Hana had ever seen anything move. The massive cub crossed the hangar in heartbeats. She hit the soldier like a freight transport. The soldier slammed against the wall. His weapon fell from his hands. Bora pinned him there with one enormous claw. Her mouth opened. Her teeth gleamed. Every instinct told her to bite down. Every piece of her engineering screamed at her to kill the threat. But she looked at Hana. Hana stood at the ship's entrance. Her face was pale with fear, but her voice was steady. "We do not kill," Hana said. "Not if we can help it. Remember who you are." Bora held the soldier for a long moment. The soldier's many eyes were wide with terror. He was certain he was about to die. Then Bora stepped back. She grabbed with her other claw, gentle despite her strength. She carried the smaller cub toward the ship. The soldier was left alive, trembling against the wall. "Storage closet," Hana said, pointing. "Lock him in quickly." Two cubs grabbed the soldier and shoved him into a nearby closet. They sealed the door. Then everyone was on the ship. Hana hit the control to close the hatch. "Does anyone know how to fly this thing?" she asked. Silence. Hana had never piloted anything larger than a cargo loader. The transport ship's controls were completely alien to her. There were too many buttons, too many screens, too many things that could go wrong. Bora pushed past her. The large cub sat at the pilot's station. Her claws were too big for the controls, but she managed. She began pressing buttons in a specific sequence. "You read the flight manual?" Hana asked. Bora nodded. "Of course you did." The ship's engines roared to life. The hangar doors were closed, but Bora did not seem concerned. She pressed more buttons. The ship's weapons activated. "Wait," Hana said. "You cannot just shoot." Bora fired. The hangar doors exploded outward. Cold air rushed in. Stars became visible beyond. The transport ship lifted from the floor. It turned toward the opening. Guards were running into the hangar now, firing weapons that bounced harmlessly off the ship's hull. Bora pushed the throttle forward. They shot through the destroyed doors and into the black sky. The frozen moon fell away beneath them. Stars surrounded them on all sides. Hana collapsed into a seat. Her body was shaking. She could not believe they had made it. Climbed into her lap. He was far too big for this, but she did not push him away. She wrapped her arms around him as best she could. "We made it," she whispered. "We actually made it." Bora made a sound from the pilot's seat. It was not quite a word, but Hana understood it anyway. "Not yet." She was right. They had escaped the facility, but they were still in Dominion space. They had no food, no allies, and no plan. Every ship in 3 sectors would be hunting them. But they were free. For the first time in their short lives, the cubs were free. And Hana would die before she let anyone put them in chains again. Bora guided the ship toward the hyperspace jump point. The stars stretched into lines of light. The transport ship shuddered. Then they were gone, vanishing into the space between stars, leaving the frozen moon and everything it represented far behind. The Dominion declared them the most dangerous fugitives in 3 sectors. Hana thought that was probably fair. After all, she had done something far more dangerous than steal a ship or destroy a facility. She had taught monsters how to be children. And that was something the Dominion would never forgive. The stolen transport ship drifted through space for 14 days. They ran out of food on day 6. Hana rationed what remained, giving larger portions to the cubs and keeping almost nothing for herself. The cubs noticed. They started refusing food unless Hana ate first. Bora would physically block the food storage until Hana took her share. They ran out of water on day 10. The ship had a recycling system, but it was damaged during the escape. Hana spent hours trying to repair it with tools she did not understand. Eventually, sat beside her and pointed at things in the maintenance manual. Together, they figured it out. The navigation system was broken. They did not know where they were. They did not know if they were flying toward safety or deeper into enemy territory. All they could do was keep moving and hope. On day 12, Hana started teaching the cubs Korean. She did not have a good reason. They were probably going to die in the black emptiness between stars. But the cubs were scared and bored and confused, and Hana knew only one way to help children who felt those things. She taught them. She started with simple words. Hello, goodbye, thank you, please. The cubs had difficulty with human sounds. Their mouths and throats were designed for growling and roaring, not delicate syllables, but they tried so hard, they practiced for hours. Was the fastest learner with language, just as Bora had been fastest with reading. By day 14, he could speak simple sentences. His accent was strange, his pronunciation was rough, but the words were clear. "Hana," he said one morning, his voice like gravel, "I am hungry. When do we eat?" Hana laughed until she cried. Then she cried because there was no food left. Did not understand why she was crying, so he wrapped his clawed arms around her and held her until she stopped. On day 14, they entered human-controlled space. Hana did not know this at first. The ship's sensors were damaged, but then a signal appeared on the communication screen. It was broadcasting on old Earth frequencies, frequencies that only human ships would use. Hana's hands trembled as she recorded a message. She did not know who would hear it. She did not know if they would help or attack, but she had no choice. "This is Hana of New Colony," she said into the microphone. "I am a human prisoner escaped from Dominion space. I have 12 with me. Please, they are not dangerous. They are children. We need help. We need food and water. Please, someone help us." She sent the message on repeat. For 6 hours, nothing happened. The cubs gathered around Hana in the small cockpit. They did not understand what was happening, but they knew she was afraid. They pressed close to her, offering comfort the only way they knew how. Then a ship appeared. It was enormous, bigger than anything Hana had ever seen. Its hull was covered with weapons that gleamed in the starlight. The name was painted on the side in letters 3 stories tall. HSS Indomitable. A human battle cruiser. The communication system crackled. A voice came through, harsh and suspicious. "Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Ho of the HSS Indomitable. You will power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Confirm understanding." Hana confirmed. What else could she do? The battle cruiser moved closer. A boarding shuttle launched from its side. Hana watched it approach through the cockpit window. Her mouth was dry, her heart pounded. "Listen to me," she told the cubs. "Humans are coming. They might be scared of you. They might point weapons at you, but you must not attack. You must not growl or show your teeth. Stay behind me. Stay calm. Can you do that?" The cubs nodded, gripped her hand. Bora stood directly behind her, ready to protect but holding herself back. The boarding shuttle connected to their airlock. There was a hissing sound as the seals engaged. Then footsteps, many footsteps, the sound of weapons being. The airlock door opened. Soldiers poured into the ship. They were wearing combat armor and carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. They spread out through the small vessel, checking every corner, shouting commands at each other. Then they reached the cockpit. Hana stood in the center of the room. Behind her, 12 massive creatures huddled together, trying to make themselves small. Their eyes glowed in the dim light. Their scales shifted nervously, but they did not attack. They did not even growl. The soldiers froze. Their weapons came up, pointing at the cubs. Fingers tightened on triggers. "Hold," a voice commanded. The soldiers stopped. A man pushed through their ranks. He was tall with a weathered face and eyes that had seen too much war. His uniform marked him as the captain. Ho. He looked at Hana. Then he looked at the creatures behind her. His face showed nothing, but his hand rested on his weapon. "You want to explain what the hell I'm looking at?" he asked. Hana's voice cracked. She had not spoken to another human in over 2 years. The words came out broken and desperate. "Please, they are just children. They have never hurt anyone. They were made to be weapons, but they are not weapons. They are children. Please do not shoot my kids." Ho stared at her. His expression did not change. Behind Hana there was movement. She turned, terrified that one of the cubs was about to attack. Instead, she saw. The smallest cub stepped forward. His body was trembling with fear. The soldiers' weapons tracked him, ready to fire at any moment, but kept walking until he was standing beside Hana. He looked up at Captain Ho. He opened his mouth. His voice was rough and strange, but the words were clear. "Hello, nice to meet you. My name is I am 7. Silence filled the ship. Captain Ho looked at the massive creature speaking Korean to him. He looked at the other cubs huddled behind their human mother. He looked at Hana, exhausted and starving and standing between his weapons and a group of aliens that were supposed to be the most dangerous things in the galaxy. Slowly, he lowered his hand from his weapon. "Stand down," he told his soldiers. "Sir," one of them asked. "I said stand down, and someone get these people some food." Hana's legs gave out. She would have fallen, but Bora caught her. The massive cub held her human mother gently, carefully, like she was something precious. The soldiers watched with wide eyes. They had been briefed on. They knew what these creatures were supposed to be: killing machines, monsters, the enemy's ultimate weapon. But the monsters were not attacking. The monsters were holding their human mother and looking at her with worried eyes and making soft sounds that almost sounded like crying. The story spread. Captain Ho tried to keep it quiet. The military wanted to suppress the information. They wanted to study the cubs, to understand how they had been changed, to perhaps use that knowledge against the Dominion. But the crew of the Indomitable told their families told their friends told the news networks. Within a week, the entire galaxy knew. The ultimate weapons had learned to laugh. The monsters had learned to love. The things that were designed to destroy humanity had chosen humanity instead. Videos spread across every network. Cubs playing cards in the mess hall. Cubs learning to say please and thank you. Cubs watching sad movies and crying at the endings. Telling his terrible joke about asteroids. Bora singing a Korean lullaby in her strange, rough voice. The Dominion watched with growing alarm. This was not supposed to happen. The cubs were supposed to be feared. They were supposed to terrorize. Instead, they were becoming celebrities. Children across human space started drawing pictures of cubs. They asked their parents for stories about Hana and her family. They learned Korean words because spoke Korean. The message was spreading faster than any weapon could. Love was stronger than fear. Compassion was more dangerous than claws. And one kindergarten teacher from New had done more damage to the Dominion than any army ever could. Captain Ho came to Hana's quarters one evening. She was teaching the cubs a new song. They were making a terrible noise, but they were smiling. "You know," he said, leaning against the doorframe, "the Dominion spent 30 years and enough resources to build a fleet making those cubs into weapons." Hana looked up at him, and you turned them into children with lullabies and hide and seek." Hana smiled. It was the first real smile she had managed in a long time. "That is what kindergarten teachers do," she said. "We see children where others see problems. We see potential where others see failure." She looked at her cubs, at trying to teach Bora the words to the song, at the others clapping along, completely off rhythm but completely happy. "They were never weapons," she said quietly. "They were always children. The Dominion just refused to see it." Ho was quiet for a moment, then he nodded. "The Dominion is demanding we return them. They are calling them stolen military assets." Hana's smile faded. Her hands curled into fists. "And what is your answer?" Captain Ho looked at the cubs, who had stopped singing and was watching him with worried eyes, at Bora, who had placed herself between her siblings and the doorway, ready to protect. "My answer," he said slowly, "is that I do not see any military assets here. I see 12 children and their mother, and the United Human Assembly does not surrender children to people who would hurt them." Hana closed her eyes. Tears ran down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "Do not thank me yet," Ho said. The Dominion is sending a war fleet. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. Hana opened her eyes. She looked at her children. They looked back at her, trusting, waiting. "Let them come," she said. "We have faced worse." And somehow Ho believed her. The Dominion Warfleet arrived 3 weeks later. 47 warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory. They were massive vessels, bristling with weapons that could glass entire planets. The fleet commander broadcast a simple message: "Return the stolen assets within 24 hours, or we will consider this an act of war." The United Human Assembly gathered in emergency session. Representatives argued through the night. Some said the cubs should be returned. The lives of billions could not be risked for 12 aliens and 1 woman. The math was simple. The answer was obvious. Others disagreed. They had seen the videos. They had watched Tell his terrible jokes. They had seen Boras sing lullabies. They had witnessed creatures designed for murder choosing gentleness instead. If humanity surrendered these children, what did humanity stand for? The debate continued. No consensus emerged. Time ran out. Hana was asked to address the assembly. She almost refused. She was a kindergarten teacher, not a politician. She did not know how to speak to powerful people about important things. She knew how to teach children their letters and numbers. She knew how to comfort them when they were scared. That was all. Boran nudged her forward. "You taught us brave," Boras said. Her Korean had improved greatly over the past weeks. "Now we teach you." Hana looked at her cubs. They stood behind her in a line. Bora, all the others who had never been given names by the Dominion but who now carried Korean names that Hana had chosen with care. They believed in her. Even if she did not believe in herself, they believed in her. So she walked to the podium. The assembly hall was enormous. Hundreds of representatives sat in rows that rose toward the ceiling. Cameras broadcast her image to billions across human space. Every eye in the room was on her. Hana gripped the podium. Her hands were shaking. Her voice wanted to disappear. "I am not a soldier," she began. Her voice was small in the vast space. "I am not a politician or a scientist or anyone important. Before the war, I was a kindergarten teacher in a small colony. I taught children to read. I taught them songs. I taught them how to share and how to be kind." She paused. The assembly waited in silence. "The Dominion took me from my home. They put me in a labor camp. Then they gave me to the cubs because they thought I would die. They thought the cubs would kill me. They thought I was expendable." Her voice grew stronger. "But they made a mistake. They gave the cubs human hearts. They put human DNA inside them to make them better at hunting us. They did not understand what that meant." She turned to look at her children. They watched her with glowing eyes, trusting completely. It meant they could learn, not just tactics and killing. They could learn kindness. They could learn play. They could learn that the universe does not have to be cruel. She turned back to the assembly. The Dominion made them to be weapons. They spent 30 years and enough resources to build 100 ships creating perfect monsters. But they forgot something important about humans. She straightened her back. Her voice rang clear now. "We do not give up on children, even when they are difficult, even when they are damaged, even when everyone else says they are lost causes. We see what they could become, not just what they are. And we do not stop trying until they get there." She pointed at the cubs behind her. They were never weapons. They were always children waiting for someone to treat them like children. I was just the first person to try. The assembly was silent. Representatives looked at each other. Some had tears in their eyes. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked angry, though whether at Hana or at the situation she could not tell. "The Dominion wants them back," Hana continued. "They say these are military assets, stolen property. They say we must return them or face war." Her voice hardened. "But you cannot own a child. You cannot put a price on a soul. These 12 learned to laugh and love and hope. They chose to be gentle when everything in their lives taught them to be violent. That choice belongs to them. No one can take it away. She took a deep breath. If we give them back, they will be killed. Or worse, they will be broken again. The Dominion will learn from its mistakes. The next batch of cubs will not have the chance to choose. They will be true monsters, and we will have helped create them. She looked directly at the cameras. Humanity has always been at its best when we stood up for those who could not stand up for themselves, when we said no to cruelty even when it was easier to look away, when we chose to be kind even when kindness was costly. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but every word carried through the silent hall. These are my children. They trust me to protect them. I am asking you to help me keep that promise. She stepped back from the podium. The silence stretched for a long moment, then walked forward. He was massive compared to the humans in the room. His scales shifted in the bright lights. His claws clicked on the polished floor. The security guards tensed. Weapons moved toward him, but stopped at the edge of the stage. He looked out at the hundreds of faces watching him. Then he spoke in his rough, strange voice. Hana, teach us that scared is okay. Being scared does not make you weak. It means you understand danger. But scared does not mean stop. Scared means be careful. Scared means think. Scared means find another way. He pointed at the representatives. You are scared of us. That is okay. We are big and have teeth and claws, but we choose not to hurt. We choose gentle. We choose kind. That is harder than being scary. Hana taught us that too. He looked back at Hana. Then he turned to the assembly again. Please do not send us back. We do not want to forget how to laugh. The vote took place 1 hour later. It was not unanimous. Some representatives still argued for surrendering the cubs. The risk was too great. The cost was too high. War with the Dominion could destroy everything humanity had built. But the majority voted no. Humanity would not surrender children to monsters. The Dominion fleet received the message. They were given 24 hours to withdraw or face the combined military response of the United Human Assembly. The Dominion commander laughed at first. Humans were weak. Humans were sentimental fools. Humans would break when they saw the true power of the Dominion. Then the reinforcements arrived. Ships dropped out of hyperspace around the Dominion fleet. Not just human ships, vessels from 6 other species who had never before the Council. The sent 12 destroyers. The Mendi sent a carrier group. The sent their entire active fleet. They had all seen the videos. They had all heard the story. They had all watched monsters choose to be children. And they had all asked themselves the same question. If the Dominion could create weapons from slaves and fear, what else had they created? What other lies had they been told? The Dominion fleet was outnumbered 3-1. The commander sent an urgent message to the Council. He requested instructions. He waited for orders. The Council was in chaos. This was not supposed to happen. The cubs were supposed to spread fear. Instead, they had spread hope. The other species were supposed to stay afraid. Instead, they were standing together for the first time in centuries. The order came back, withdraw. The war fleet turned and disappeared into hyperspace. They left behind no threats, no promises of revenge. They simply ran. Because they finally understood what Hana had done. She had not just saved 12 cubs. She had broken something fundamental in the Dominion's power. She had shown the galaxy that their weapons could be defeated not with bigger weapons, but with kindness. And that was a weapon they had no defense against. 5 years passed. Hana ran a small school on Nunau. The colony had been rebuilt after the war. The buildings were new, but the spirit was the same. Children played in the streets. Families gathered for meals. Life continued. Her class was unusual. Human children sat beside cubs. Students from 4 other species shared desks and books and games. They learned together, played together, grew together. Bora had become the first to earn a human teaching certificate. She taught music. Her voice was still rough and strange, but her students loved her anyway. They called her Teacher Bo. Had developed an unfortunate addiction to terrible jokes. He had a comedy show on the local network. It was not very good, but it was popular. People watched because it made them happy to see a creature designed for killing making people laugh instead. The others had scattered across human space. Some worked as translators between species. Some served as ambassadors. Some simply lived quiet lives, raising families, making friends, being ordinary. Every year they came home for. Hana's apartment was too small for 12 adults and their human mother. They spilled out onto the balcony, into the hallway, down the stairs. Neighbors complained about the noise, then joined the celebration anyway. They ate too much. They laughed too loud. They argued about old memories and teased each other about new ones. They were a family in every way that mattered. On the last night of the holiday, Hana stood on her balcony and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dominion still existed, weakened, fragmented, but not yet gone. New conflicts waited. New challenges loomed. But tonight, none of that mattered. Appeared beside her. He was huge now, nearly 9 feet tall. His scales had darkened with age, but his eyes were the same as they had been that first day in the containment chamber, curious, hopeful, trusting. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Hana smiled. "I am thinking about that first day, when you crept across the floor to listen to me sing. I was so scared." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I was scared too. I thought you were going to hurt me like everyone else." "I would never hurt you." "I know. That is why I came to you, because you sat down and made yourself small. No one had ever done that before." Hana reached up and put her hand on his arm. He covered her small hand with his massive claw, gentle as always. "The Dominion wanted to make you into weapons," she said. "Yes. They failed." Looked at her. His mouth curved in what had become a smile over the years. "No, they succeeded. They just did not understand what kind of weapon they made." Hana frowned. "What do you mean?" Gestured at the stars. "The Dominion is falling apart. Species are leaving them. Slave planets are rising up. The empire that ruled for 1,000 years is crumbling." He looked down at her. "And it started with us, with 12 cubs who learned to laugh. We were weapons after all, just not the kind they expected." Hana thought about that. She thought about the videos that had spread across the galaxy. She thought about the other species who had found courage because 12 monsters chose gentleness. She thought about the cracks that had spread through an empire built on fear. "No," she said finally, "you were not weapons, you were children." Tilted his head. "What is the difference?" Hana smiled. "Weapons are made, children grow. Weapons are controlled, children choose. The Dominion made you, but they could not control what you became. You chose that yourselves." She looked at the stars again. "That is the most powerful thing in the universe, the ability to choose. The Dominion tried to take it away from you. They failed, and their empire is dying because they could not understand something so simple." "What?" Hana squeezed his claw. "That love is always stronger than fear. That kindness can never truly be defeated. That the smallest act of gentleness can shake the foundations of empires." She turned to go back inside, where her family was waiting. "Come on. Bora is about to tell the story of our escape again, and she always gets the details wrong." Laughed and followed her inside. Behind them, the stars watched in silence. Somewhere out there, wars continued. Empires rose and fell. The universe kept spinning in its cold, endless dance. But on New, in a small apartment overflowing with love and noise and terrible jokes, a family gathered together. And that was enough. That was everything. The end.